After spending a night together, Petra and James wake up early in the morning. Petra hurries off to class, but James decides to stay in bed for a bit longer. Unfortunately, he ends up oversleeping and rushing through the city to make it to his philosophy class. When he arrives, Mr. Zimit, the teacher, almost doesn't let him in, but eventually opens the door. It's the last day of school, and Zimit asks the students to share their favorite thought experiments from class. Chips talks about the infinite monkey theorem, which suggests that if a monkey is given a typewriter and infinite time, it would eventually type out Hamlet. Jack brings up the trolley problem, where you must choose between diverting a train to kill one person or letting it hit 4. The class then jokes about the fat man version, where you decide whether to push a large man onto the tracks to stop the train. Zimit announces they'll do one last thought experiment to end the year. He sets the scene. There's an atomic apocalypse, and the class must imagine a bunker with room and supplies for only 10 people for 1 year. There are 20 students, so they must decide who gets to survive and who doesn't, all within a short amount of time before the radiation hits. At first, Georgina refuses, saying it feels like discussing eugenics. But Zimit describes in detail how horrific it is to die from radiation, which convinces her to participate. Petra also refuses at first and even gets up to leave, confident that her perfect grades mean Zimit can't hurt her academically. But when Zimit threatens to lower James's grades instead, which would make him fail the class, Petra reluctantly agrees to stay. Zimit passes out cards that randomly assign each student a profession for the exercise. When everyone checks their cards, they see a variety of roles, some practical, like chemist and astronaut, and others more niche, like harpist or wine auctioneer. Toby shares that he's a published poet, but before he can finish, Zimit suddenly shoots him, explaining that he took the gun from the bunker. Zimit says this is a more humane way for Toby to die since a poet wouldn't be chosen to enter the bunker anyway. He wouldn't be useful for rebuilding humanity. Zimit also reveals that he's part of the exercise as a wild card, with his profession kept secret. Afterward, the students defend why they deserve a spot in the bunker, and the group votes. The first 9 chosen are those seen as essential for survival. The final spot is debated between Zimit and Utami, the opera singer. Petra argues that a wild card is risky, but Jack counters that an opera singer is a luxury, and Zimit might have a hidden skill. Zimit wins the spot, completing the group. The students take 5 minutes to say goodbye, rearranging desks to pretend they're having their final moments with each other. Suddenly, gunshots ring out. Zimit has shot everyone who wasn't chosen, and Petra quietly tells James she no longer wants Zimit in the bunker. James comes up with a plan and asks everyone to gather plants for replanting after they leave the bunker. While they're collecting, James speaks to each person privately to explain his idea. When the group enters the bunker, they disable the external keypad and shut the door, leaving Zimit outside. Inside the bunker, they explore the rooms. There's an artificial garden, a daybed, a gym, and other items to prevent depression. That night, as the others sleep on the cots, James joins Petra on the big bed, telling her he can face anything as long as she's with him. After he falls asleep, Petra checks on Zimit outside. She finds him slowly dying from radiation burns. Suddenly, Zimit holds up a piece of paper revealing that he's the only one with the exit code. Petra calls the group together, and they argue over whether to believe him or not. Ultimately, they decide to leave him out, ignoring his claim. The group settles into their year in the bunker, but it's painfully boring. After the year passes, the group prepares to leave the bunker, only to discover Zimit was right. The lock requires an exit code. They try everything they can to break the door, but nothing works. With no supplies left and no way out, they decide to end their lives to avoid a worse fate. Back in the classroom, Zimit announces that they failed the exercise and reveals his true profession. He's a bunker builder, and he specifically built that bunker. The students ask for another chance, and this time they imagine a new scenario, placing the bunker at Mount Bromo. As before, Zimit grabs a gun, but Petra notices this time. It's also revealed that the cards each student received had hidden secondary characteristics that could affect the votes. James is revealed to be gay, but despite this, his farming knowledge gets him accepted again. Georgina, however, is excluded this time because it's revealed she was exposed to the Ebola virus. Plum, the hedge fund manager, is accepted because she always carries a bag of gold with her. Chips is revealed to be infertile, but his carpentry skills still secure his spot. Petra, who is also an electrical engineer in addition to being a structural engineer, is accepted as well. Andy is rejected because he has a rare disease that could kill him at any moment. Poppy is left out since she cannot have children. Vivian is excluded again because her support for PETA doesn't add any value in this scenario. Jack, the chemist, is revealed to have won the genetic lottery, meaning he'll live long and healthy, which ensures his acceptance. Kavi, who is also a midwife, is accepted to fill the void left by Georgina. Parker is left out because his card reveals no additional skills, and someone else's card has 2. Utami's card shows that she speaks 7 languages, but will develop a throat tumor in 3 years that will leave her mute, so she's excluded as well. Mitzi, despite her IQ of 200, is left out again. When it's Toby's turn to reveal his characteristic, Zimit shoots him once more, claiming the last spot for himself since the group still doesn't know the exit code. Zimit then hands Georgina the keys to a truck, and those left outside immediately try to escape in an effort to save themselves. Tragically, the vehicle is caught in an explosion. The chosen group begins running to the bunker, making it inside just in time. Later that evening, Petra wakes up and notices James isn't in his bed. Curious, she searches for him and is shocked to find him being intimate with Jack, who turns out to actually be gay in real life. Hurt and upset, Petra runs out and tells the rest of the group what she saw. Since Chips is infertile, he is excused from participating. Jack and James also refuse, saying they can't fake being with women even for the sake of repopulating. The group decides to pair Bonnie with Kavi and Omosede with Nelson. Out of spite for James, Petra agrees to be with Zimit, ignoring James when he tries to tell her that she still loves him. While the explosions outside destroy what's left of the planet, the 3 couples reluctantly begin their tasks at the same time. After 10 weeks with no pregnancies, Zimit suggests they need to switch partners, even saying that the women should have multiple partners to increase the chances. Bonnie stands up to him, declaring that they are taking logic too far and it shouldn't override consent. Angered by her defiance, Zimit leaves the room only to return with a gun. He threatens everyone except Bonnie to leave. The group runs out, but Jack hides behind a corner. When Zimit is distracted, Jack tackles him, causing the gun to fall. Bonnie picks it up and holds Zimit at gunpoint. The fight between Zimit and Jack continues, with Zimit eventually overpowering Jack. However, Jack retaliates by stabbing Zimit in the ear with a pen. Frustrated and humiliated, Zimit storms to the front door of the bunker and enters the exit code, intentionally dooming everyone as the radiation pours in. The group fails the exercise once again. Back in the classroom, James starts to grow suspicious of Zimit's motives for these exercises. He mentions Zimit's peculiar cough when he first assigned the roles, noting that Zimit hasn't coughed since then. Driven by curiosity, James grabs the box of cards from Zimit's desk and runs out of his reach. When he opens it, James finds hidden compartments and realizes that both his and Petra's cards were tampered with, ensuring they would always get the same roles: gay farmer and double engineer. Furious, James demands to know why Zimit specifically targets him. Zimit responds by referencing Plato's allegory of the cave. He explains that in the story, a man lives his entire life chained to a wall, only able to see shadows and hear echoes. The man assumes that this is what reality looks and sounds like. One day, the man is freed and discovers that the shadows are cast by bodies and the echoes by voices. Zimit claims that the exercise is his way of forcing James to confront how his privilege has left him unprepared for the harshness of reality. However, James rejects Zimit's reasoning, refusing to believe him. Zimit could have assigned James an unhelpful role, like a florist, so he'd be voted out right away. Instead, making him a gay farmer seems deliberate, designed to prolong his suffering. At this point, Petra interrupts the argument and suggests they do the exercise a 3rd time, with James as a florist. The class imagines a new scenario set on an island before the apocalypse hits. As usual, Zimit heads to the bunker to grab a weapon. When he returns outside, Petra approaches him, offering a hug and saying she knows things have been tough for him. After the hug, Petra asks everyone to trust her judgment for choosing who gets into the bunker, explaining that she has a plan. The class agrees to let her decide, and Petra begins making her choices. She saves Mitzi, reasoning that a genius wine auctioneer would have the foresight to bring both red and white wine, ensuring the group has a good time. Beatrice is chosen because dressing well improves self-esteem, which in turn boosts productivity. Toby's second skill turns out to be champion poker player, so Petra saves him too. Russell, who has autism, is also selected, with Petra explaining that autism can often be seen as a gift. Georgina is chosen because although she was exposed to Ebola, there's no proof she's infected. Utami, the opera singer, is included too, with Petra noting that her singing could help everyone fall asleep peacefully, even if she might lose her voice in 3 years. Jack is picked for his perfect genes, but he's upset because he won't have a partner due to his orientation. With only 2 spots left, Petra chooses James. As the selected group heads into the bunker, the remaining students in the classroom sit together as a team. Zimit, frustrated with Petra's choices, lowers her grade with each decision, eventually giving her a failing mark. When the seemingly useless people begin entering the bunker, Zimit snaps and reaches for his gun, only to find it missing. Petra reveals she took it during their hug. She returns the gun to him, but it's not loaded. Petra hands Zimit 2 bullets, saying she doesn't want him to suffer like in the last scenario. At that moment, James appears with a rifle, revealing that he had been the noise Zimit heard in the bunker earlier. Panicking, Zimit tries to save himself, claiming only he knows the exit code. However, Bonnie counters this by revealing she memorized it during the previous round thanks to her perfect memory. Defeated, Zimit leaves. Petra then offers the last slot to Bonnie, but Bonnie refuses, so Chips takes the spot instead. In this version of the exercise, James is no longer gay and begs Petra to join him in the bunker. Petra refuses, saying she'll take the boat and try to escape the radiation zone. But just as she's about to leave, Chips reveals he has the boat keys. Chips acts quickly, pushing Petra inside the bunker and switching places with her just as the door closes. While the rest of the group rushes to the boat to leave the island, Petra continues narrating the thought exercise. She explains that despite the horrible circumstances, the group still managed to find joy during their year in the bunker. They entertained themselves with Shakespeare performances and original poems. James expresses his love for Petra, but she hesitates to say it back. When the year finally ends, the group leaves the bunker, only to discover that the bombs never fell. Zimit narrates that they'll die because none of them have the technical skills to survive on an island. Petra responds that even if their lives are short, they'll live them well and happily, ready to embrace death when it comes. Suddenly, a rocket lands on the beach. James prepares to detonate it, but Zimit appears and shoots to stop him. It's revealed that Zimit survived the radiation by finding a cave deep enough to protect him. He's been surviving there for the past year on whatever he could find. Zimit insists they can't commit an act as unreasonable as ending the human race and threatens to shoot James with his last bullet. However, the other survivors stand together, moving one by one to shield James. They use the distraction to press the detonation button, and the bomb destroys the entire island. Back in class, Zimit seems ashamed of the latest exercise, but Chips interrupts with his own version of the ending. In his story, the boat manages to escape the explosion, and he becomes the only guy with 6 women all to himself. When the class asks what happened to the other 3 men, Chips says Kavi drowned, Nelson was attacked by a barracuda, and Andy had an accident with a palm tree. Chips insists that even though he's infertile, it doesn't mean procreation is impossible, and in his version, he takes turns with a different girl each day. Zimit finally ends the class, and the students begin to leave. Petra stays behind and confronts him, accusing him of using the exercise to punish James. It's revealed that Zimit and Petra have been having an affair, and Zimit thinks James is beneath her. Petra explains that intelligence isn't everything, and that she loves James. She tells Zimit he shouldn't punish James for something he doesn't even know about. Petra gives Zimit one last kiss and walks away. Left alone in the school, he finds his gun, and a shot echoes through the building. Don't forget to subscribe. Here's some more interesting story you don't want to miss.